So let's talk about intermittent fasting and CrossFit. A number of our clients and members have kind of reached out to us asking my opinion on whether it should be used when you're doing CrossFit, how to use it, when to use it, and the kind of benefits. So a number of you have maybe kind of watched the Josh Bridges video and maybe the Rich Froning one where they kind of talk through, and he said that I've been using it recently and it's changed my testosterone levels, etc. I'm going to come on to this in the video, but I'm just going to start with my opinion on using intermittent fasting for CrossFit. Intermittent fasting is a fantastic method to use, and I think it's something that a number of people can utilize at certain points of their week, of their month, and align it to their training. Now, it's not something that you have to do every single day. And I think this is where people get a little bit kind of like caught up in terms of, oh, should I do intermittent fasting? And it just doesn't work at certain times, so they stop doing it, or that they kind of notice that there's a drop in energy levels or whatever. So the first thing to kind of focus on is that if you intermittent fast, you don't necessarily need to do it every single day. And this is something that is kind of goes across nutrition. Like, you don't need to put yourself into a camp. So if you're following a certain diet or whatever, then you can kind of polarize yourself into that. And intermittent fasting is one of those things. For example, I use intermittent fasting maybe 1 to 2, maybe 3 days a week. And this usually coincides with a rest day or a day that I'm potentially kind of doing something a little bit lower intensity. So it might be a weekend day where I'm going for a bike ride, a walk, a swim, whatever it is. And I don't necessarily need to be thinking about fueling that training session, because it's not performance that I'm looking for. I'm just looking forward to moving, and it's a little bit lower intensity, so I don't need to be fueling that session. Like, I have enough energy stores in my body to be able to kind of use during that session. So I will naturally going to get up and do that session, and by the time I eat, I have broken my fast at maybe 12 or 1 p.m. So I've automatically fasted for 15, 16 hours. I like this because it gives my digestive system a bit of a break. I feel that it can help me manage my caloric intake over that weekend, or maybe a time where I kind of eat a little bit more when I'm eating out or eating at friends, or me and my wife cook a few things. So it allows me to work that around my week plan to keep me on track. And this is something that I think a lot of people can utilize intermittent fasting for. So you can use it if you have, eat out the weekends, or if you have a lower intensity day on a rest day. This is the time to potentially use it. Like, the times not to use it are times, for me, when you're doing really intense training, double sessions, or you're training kind of multiple, maybe 3-4 days in a row. So this is the time to think about what works for you. And intermittent fasting is a fantastic method to kind of help you to stay on plan and maintain your progress over a week from a caloric point of view, but also from an overall health point of view. I think it can be very, very beneficial. However, when people do it wrong, that's when I see that there's real kind of impact in terms of training, in terms of energy, in terms of hunger, cravings. And when people do it wrong, for me, is when people train first thing in the morning. So if you're training at 5:30, 6 a.m., 7:30 even, and you train and then fast till 1 p.m., for me, it just doesn't seem to work personally, but also with our clients. And it's not to say that you should be eating within half an hour and you need to take advantage of that anabolic window. However, when you're training and delaying that your replenishment, your eating window until like maybe 5-6 hours later, I just find that it has a knock-on effect in terms of overeating maybe in lunch, or overeating and snacking for the rest of the day, and then maybe binging in the evening because your body is in a state of a quite a significant caloric deficit. If you want to do that, then you need to make sure that you eat enough in that day. That's the biggest thing with intermittent fasting that people get wrong, in my opinion, is that they fast, but then they don't consume enough calories in their actual eating window. So this is an area that you need to make sure that you're being on plan, and not just removing 600-700 calories from your diet if performance is your goal. So this is where you need to kind of like find a method or a strategy that works for you. If you train in the evening, I think it's a fantastic thing. If you're very sedentary in the morning, I think it's a really, really beneficial way to help kind of integrate intermittent fasting into your week, to get the benefits of intermittent fasting, but also make sure that you're going into your session in a fueled state. So you might train in at 3 p.m. or 5 p.m. or 7 p.m. You can break your fast at lunchtime and then effectively just eat at regular points to ensure that you're fueling your session adequately. So I hope this kind of gives you an idea in terms of when we use it and when you could potentially use it in your week. Now, to loop back to Rich and Josh Bridges' videos recently on intermittent fasting. Now, one of the biggest things that Rich mentioned that he's following, he was like, when the RP guys put his diet in place, they wanted him to eat breakfast and they wanted him to not do fasting. But Rich would eat a massive breakfast, he said, and then kind of train, and then not really eat in the day, and then train again, and then kind of eat at night. And he has his blood work done, which is fantastic, and he showed low testosterone and whatever, and then now he's changed to fasting, his testosterone levels have gone up. Now if you look at the video, what Rich has done is he's fasting in the morning, he's training 9:30, 10 p.m, so he's finishing his fast at 11:30, 12 p.m. when he eats his first meal. So he's taken advantage of that anabolic window, if it exists, but he's eating post-workout, and then he's eating again pre-workout. So he's actually going into his second session in a fueled state, as opposed to when he ate breakfast, he was potentially depleting glycogen levels, causing muscle damage, then going into that second session in an under-fueled, catabolic potentially, state of his body. So this is an area that I think that has made the biggest difference in terms of maybe changing his blood work, is actually, even if he didn't intermittent fast, and he just ate a little bit more before his second session, maybe his blood work would have changed. So it doesn't mean that just because he's fasting, all of a sudden he gets this massive spike in growth hormone and everything is rosy and everyone should be doing it. You've got to look at the context. Now the guys at RP would have set his diet up, perfectly, and if he had followed it, maybe he would have made progress. But fasting is a method that he has found that works for him at this moment in time. And that's what I want you to be thinking about doing as well. So don't just take it as gospel when someone says this works for me. You've got to fit it into your lifestyle. Be very wary of putting yourself into a camp, because otherwise you're just going to be, if you can't do it, then you're going to feel that you failed. And if this is the type of thing that I want you to kind of really kind of work on. So making sure that you do not, making sure that you do make it work for you. So I hope this helps. If there are any more questions about intermittent fasting, and we can maybe go into a little bit more of the science behind it, but this is kind of some practical tips that hopefully you can kind of integrate into your general week, and work it around your kind of CrossFit training, and to maximize your progress. Guys, if there's any issues or any questions, pop them in the comments below, and I'll get back to you.